On paper, Iran looks like a republic. It has elections, it has a president, it has a parliament, it even has televised debates and political campaigns. But in reality, power in Iran doesn't flow the way it does in France or the United States or even most authoritarian states. Instead, power flows upward, to one man, a man most Iranians never voted for, a man who has outlasted presidents, sanctions, wars, uprisings, and entire generations. A man whose decisions shape Iran's foreign policy, its military doctrine, its nuclear ambitions, and its place in the Middle East. His name is Ali Khamenei, and to understand modern Iran, its confrontations with Israel, its tensions with the West, its role in regional conflicts, and even its internal protests, you need to understand how this man came to power and how he stayed there. In June 1981, Tehran was tense. The Islamic Republic was only 2 years old. The revolution had overthrown the Shah, but the new system was still fragile. Iran was already at war with Iraq. Political assassinations were becoming frighteningly common. And on one hot Friday afternoon, inside the Abu Dar Mosque in Tehran, a bomb exploded. The blast ripped through the podium during Friday prayers. The preacher collapsed, bleeding heavily, hovering between life and death. That preacher was Ali Khamenei. At the time, he was not Iran's most powerful man. He wasn't even president yet. But had he died that day, Iran's political trajectory might have looked very different. Instead, Khamenei survived, though the explosion permanently paralyzed his right arm. That moment would later be remembered not just as an assassination attempt, but as the first major turning point in the life of the man who would eventually become Iran's supreme leader. Ali Khamenei was born in 1939 in the city of Mashhad. He came from a religious family. He studied Islamic theology. He spoke Persian and Azerbaijani. And like many clerics of his generation, he became politically radicalized under the Shah. Before 1979, Khamenei was arrested multiple times for his opposition activities. He was imprisoned. He lived under surveillance. At times, he was even forced into exile. Then came the Islamic Revolution, when Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini returned from exile and overthrew the monarchy. Khamenei rose quickly within the new system. By 1981, just weeks after surviving the assassination attempt, Iran's president was killed in another bombing. So was the prime minister. The country needed stability. And so, Ali Khamenei became president of Iran. He would serve 2 terms, from 1981 to 1989, during the bloodiest years of the Iran-Iraq War. Here's where Iran becomes different. Because even while Khamenei was president, he was not the most powerful person in the country. That title belonged to Ayatollah Khomeini, the supreme leader and architect of a system built around a revolutionary concept called Velayat-e, the guardianship of the Islamic jurist. The idea was simple but radical. In Shiite theology, the rightful leader, the Mahdi, is absent. Until his return, a senior Islamic jurist should govern in his place. Khomeini turned this idea into a political system. Under Iran's constitution, sovereignty belongs to God. The people elect institutions. But ultimate authority rests with the supreme leader. That means the president governs, but only within limits. Parliament legislates, but under supervision. The supreme leader oversees everything: the military, judiciary, media, foreign policy, and key economic institutions. For 10 years, that leader was Khomeini. Then, in 1989, Khomeini died, and Iran faced its biggest power vacuum since the revolution. At first glance, Ali Khamenei wasn't an obvious successor. Unlike Khomeini, he did not possess the same level of religious authority. He was not a top-ranking Shiite cleric, known as a marja, even though Iran's constitution technically required the supreme leader to hold that status. But politics intervened. Before his death, Khomeini had clashed bitterly with his original successor, Ayatollah Montazeri, and removed him from power. With no clear alternative, Iran's political elite moved fast. The constitution was amended. The requirement for being a top religious authority was lowered to simple religious scholarship. And with the backing of senior officials at the highest levels of the political and clerical establishment, including leading figures within the parliament and the assembly of experts, Ali Khamenei was appointed supreme leader first temporarily, then permanently after a referendum. In 1989, a former president with limited religious authority became the most powerful man in Iran. And from that moment on, Khamenei began reshaping the system to secure his rule. Sociologist Max Weber once described how revolutionary systems evolve. First comes charisma, the founding leader. Then comes institutionalization, bureaucracy, rules, and power structures. That's exactly what happened in Iran. Khomeini ruled through charisma and religious authority. Khamenei ruled through institutions. He expanded the office of the supreme leader. He embedded loyalists across the judiciary, media, and security services. And most importantly, he built a deep alliance with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The IRGC wasn't just a military force anymore. It became a political actor, an economic empire, a regional power broker. Over time, this alliance turned Khamenei into the central pillar of the Iranian state, even without unmatched religious legitimacy. Under Khamenei, large semi-state foundations expanded massively. One of them, created to manage confiscated assets after the revolution, evolved into a conglomerate worth tens of billions of dollars. Reuters estimated its value at $95 billion in 2013. These institutions operate across real estate, energy, telecommunications, banking, construction. The IRGC built its own economic arms, often winning massive infrastructure contracts without open competition. Supporters argue this system helped Iran survive sanctions. Critics argue it entrenched corruption, inequality, and lack of transparency. Both things can be true. Over the past 15 years, Iran has faced repeated waves of unrest. In 2009, the Green Movement challenged election results. To 2019, protests erupted over economic hardship. In 2022, the death of Mahsa Amini ignited nationwide demonstrations led by women. And most recently, the regional war that followed the Gaza conflict and the unprecedented direct confrontation between Iran and Israel placed the Iranian system under intense military and strategic strain. Each time, the state responded forcefully. Each time, the system survived. Western analysts repeatedly predicted collapse. Each time, they were wrong, not because there is no opposition, but because the system Khamenei built is designed to absorb shocks. Today, Ali Khamenei is in his mid-80s. He has ruled longer than almost any leader in the modern Middle East. And the question hanging over Iran is no longer if change will come, but how. Will the system reproduce itself through clerical succession? Will power shift toward the military and the IRGC? Will Iran face sudden transformation driven by war, crisis, or internal rupture? No one knows. What we do know is this: Ali Khamenei is not just a man. He is the embodiment of a system that turned a revolution into a state, and then turned that state into one of the most consequential powers in the region. And whatever comes after him will shape Iran and the Middle East for decades to come.